What is going on? My name is Jake Hofer, co-owner of Exodus and a real estate broker here in the state of Illinois. This is a snippet from a conversation with Brad and Tim from the Land Podcast. We're talking all about logging, how to consult a forester, what to consider before logging a parcel, the benefits of it, potential income. And it's really important because realistically, you're only going to get a log that veneer walnut on your back 40 once in your lifetime. So doing it in the most efficient way, having the most information is key in any decision. And you get to learn a little bit more here in this conversation here today. If you find any value, be sure to hit that subscribe button. New videos every single Thursday and Saturday, podcast Monday at 5 a.m. Hope you guys enjoy it. Here we go. We discussed last time, and we've partially talked here in terms of timber on a property. So that is very important because I think it's probably one of the most overlooked things for people that are buying their first piece of ground because they just don't know. They don't know what they don't know. You guys have had some experience in timbering properties. I know you're not loggers. I know you're not a forester, but you've been on the other side of the table. So what's been your experience in the past?
Let me start this one off because you have the experience with it. But I will say to really push me into purchasing land was watching Brad, his brother, and Joe and his dad Steven on a property in Indiana, get it timbered and then get it timbered again, and knowing the value that timber brought and how it offset, whether it's your mortgage payment for the year, whether it's you take that and you put it back into food plots or acquisition of more land to then bring more value to the overall piece of property, to then watch to know what they sold it for from what they purchased it for, was kind of like, this is a game changer a little bit. And I had no idea. I always thought like cutting timber, like, okay, you're going to go pull 5-10 grand off. And then you see what pulling 25 or 30 grand off of looks like. And you're like, man, they barely touched this thing, and you can still hunt it. And they're still getting pictures of big deer. And in 2 or 3 years, it's thicker, it's better habitat. So that was kind of like one thing where I was like, good Lord, this is like a miss on probably a lot of people's charts of what they could really do with a piece of land. And so with that, I'll stop because I think, Brad, we've had some people out at our current Indiana property to look at some stuff and gotten good feedback like, hey, you might need to wait to get maximum value. And you get, we're not making that call. We're not timber experts, but you get people that'll say, hey, I'll give you a bid or give you time. But I mean, Brad kind of has led the charge on a lot of that stuff. But I would say it's a game changer of an eye opener of what you could do with it.
Yeah, from my perspective, the most ideal situation would be to have somebody timber it right before we buy it. So I'm not taxed on that timber value.
Mm-hmm. As ordinary income as it rolls in.
Yeah, exactly. In my eyes, that's the way that I look at it. I don't want to, they take off 100 grand in timber. That usually will come right off the price of the property as 100 grand versus if it's income for me, it's only whatever, 70 grand worth. So out of pocket. That's the way that I look at it. But from a timber value and the way people market some of these properties, they all market it as it's got timber value.
If it has trees, it has
marketable
timber.
Marketable timber. You walk out there and you're like, no, I can't get a guy to come out here and on this 10 acres to pull out, these 2 ash or poplar trees or whatever. But and the first time we timbered a property, I used an agent, so the state forester, build a rapport with him. Just walking through the property with him was almost, worth way more than the fee that we paid him, the commissions that we paid him on it. I'm from, Ohio, where we don't have persimmons whatsoever. And he's like, there's a massive persimmon grove right here. Just, cut these trees around, give it a little light, and you're going to have a massive crop of persimmons. And, hey, by the way, deer love those. So we did that. It blew up, and you'd have deer coming from all over the place to hit those persimmons when they're dropping. But so the first timber harvest we did, it was a very select cut. It was to one area that we wanted to put some food plots in. So our thinking was, all right, have them come in here, do that, pull out some cash. We'll be able to pay somebody else to come in here, put in a couple acre food plot in this particular area, and we're not out of pocket anything to do all that. So we did that, and the area that they timbered increased the habitat for the deer in terms of, a lot of ground cover, the deer flocked to that area before we even had food plots in. And we're like, well, we got another essentially 75 acres that we could have them out there and take a look at, see what we think we can get out of that. So the agent that we worked with, or the forester that we worked with, he did one of those closed bids or whatever. So he builds it out. He asks us what you want to take and where, and when you want people to come in and take it. And obviously, the busy season for loggers is going to be right in the middle of deer season. So maybe that did limit our offers to a degree, but at the same time, we have the property for deer hunting. So we're going to deer hunt it the few seasons that we have left. I mean, it just worked out extremely well. I think the second time we pulled timber off of it, we did a little bit more aggressive, pulled like 75K worth of timber off of it. And it didn't change the look or the feel of the property at all. Had some better trails through it for us because they did come out and regrade some of the trails. But other than that, you really couldn't tell. Couldn't tell
how many, do you remember how many trees they took for that? Was it?
It was about 2 trees per acre.
Okay.
So it was, I think, 200
so about $1,000 an acre,
something like that.
I mean,
and it was really
75
only
acres. Yeah.
Yeah, it was on 75 acres. I think we had like 7 acres of food plots in there.
Oh, wow.
So
more than that.
I mean, yeah, when you're only taking 3 trees per acre, you don't notice it at all.
Were those, what were the species? Like some walnuts?
Yep. So that one, we did have a good crop of black walnut. So I think they took 50 black walnuts over 26 inches in diameter.
Those are big.
I think is what it was. Yeah. So yeah, there was some big ones. And then the rest of it was nothing really valuable. I don't think they pulled out hardly any of the oaks because we wanted those for some of the mast producing trees. But it was mostly ash, poplar, a couple cherries, just the way they were leaning, or had a whatever reason. He had plenty of very good reasons why to pull certain trees from certain areas. Maybe it could be one had a tree that was leaning against it, or it was split at the trunk, or he had a ton of different reasons that made sense to us why he was pulling very specific trees. But yeah, most of it was ash and poplar. I think 200 of the trees were ash or poplar, mostly pallet wood.
Yeah. So you mentioned you got your value worth out of the forester coming in. Is that what, if you had to do it, or if someone was saying, hey, what advice would you give me? Would you say that's a must need to have a forester come in?
I mean, unless you know what you're doing. I mean,
sure, which I don't think most people do. Yeah.
I would go meet with them, get a feel for them. But at the end of the day, yeah. Do you trust them? Do you think they're doing right by you? And what else do they have to offer? And this guy that we met, he was awesome all the way around. Any questions that we had, he wrote up the agreement or the bid package, just like we asked him. He let us know the repercussions of doing it certain ways and everything. But yeah, when you don't really know what the heck you're doing, you're kind of at the mercy. But he also educated us a ton on, board feet calculations and, stump value versus whatever the, all the terminology. But that at least made me have a warm and fuzzy of who we were using with it. For other properties, he's like, all right, well, I'll come out, take a look. You could probably cut it. You could probably not cut it. You're going to have max value in 7 to 10 years versus do it now. And he's just honest about it. So, I mean, you can see like the property we bought in Indiana, the other one, it's got a great little grove of black walnuts on it. And they're in that probably 18 to 24 inch range. So on the smaller size, he's like, you guys can have somebody come out and cut it. There's plenty of people that'll do it. But, if you want to maximize your return, give it a while, cut down some of the less desirables, do legitimate TSI in the area for timber value, and, go that route, which, anybody that's telling you not to use them, declining commissions on something when they could make it, says a little bit about their character.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And Tim Loggers there's a lot of reputations across many professions across the world, and unfortunately, loggers is trustworthy is not one that comes to mind when people talk about them. So
I also go out there and meet with the people that are actually doing the logging too.
Oh, cool.
So make sure they don't, I mean, as best you can, and ask politely as you can, hey, don't create big ruts. If you do, please grade them when you're done with the trails.
Mhm.
A lot of times they're like, well, we have the equipment out here, and so he's just sitting there like a bump on a log. Might as well have him doing something with the equipment that we have out here.
Yeah.
Bring him a 12-pack of beer. I'm pretty sure they'd be
Yeah.
fine with it.
That's a good point. And I think that's one of the hidden benefits of getting a property timbered is the new road system. If it's done nicely too, because that's really expensive to do on your own.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you have an old road system even in it, it needs a ton of cleaning up. I mean, they all need quite a bit of maintenance. And when you have that equipment going through there, and they can just regrade the entire trail through the entire property. They were very good about, well, where do you want us to create these trails? Where do you want our main traffic
That's really
to be?
cool. That's
yeah,
really
I'm
cool.
like, all right, well, keep it just inside the perimeter of the whole property so I can, cruise the whole
Navigate, have your-
property.
Yeah.
Keep the sanctuary. That's my opinion. Keep the sanctuary in the middle, and
Yeah.
you can access it on different winds and stuff like that. But it seems to be what works for us.